I was born in a small town tucked deep into the northern woods of Michigan, a cold, forgotten place where the trees outnumber the people and silence fills the space between each heartbeat. I spent the first 18 years of my life there, dreaming of leaving. I imagined the city, the noise, the lights, the pulse of a world that never slept, as my escape, a place where real life would begin. But at 38, I realized life hadn't really begun. Not in the way I hoped. I had no family, no home of my own, no real future, just concrete, cold apartments, and the hum of air conditioners through thin walls. One morning, I caught my reflection in the subway window and didn't recognize the man staring back. So I packed a bag and drove north. The town was almost unchanged, like it had waited for me. The pine forest still crept up to the edge of the roads. The air smelled of needles and soil, and the same rusted swing set still squeaked behind the school. Even the river, though lower now, flowed with that same quiet certainty. I walked the dirt path to my parents' old house and stood in the yard until the chill bit through my coat. The house was empty, dusty, but standing. Waiting, maybe, just like the town. The next day, I saw an old friend, Mark Landers. We had gone to school together, though we were never close. He was the kind of kid who collected snakes and dared people to jump off roofs. Now he had a paunch, a beard, and the same wild gleam in his eyes. "Well, I'll be damned," he said, grinning as he gripped my hand. "You came back from the land of the lost." "Just for a bit," I lied. "Figured I'd fix the house up." "You hear about Old Man Weller?" he asked suddenly. "The electrician?" "Yeah, got trampled by a cow, drunk and angry." Not a good combo. Weirdest damn thing. I laughed awkwardly, remembering how he used to fix our fuse box with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth. I asked Mark if he knew anyone who could help me get the power back on. Try his kid, Josh Weller, took up the trade. A bit of a drunk too, but he's good with wires. Josh came that evening, patched the lines with duct tape and spliced wires, said it'd hold. He refused money, asked instead for a couple of beers. We sat on the porch and watched the woods turn blue with dusk. Josh lived like most folks in town. A little livestock, a big garden, and a house full of warmth. His wife cooked, his kids played barefoot in the yard. It felt stable, real. A week later, digging through the shed, I found Dad's old double-barrel shotgun wrapped in cloth. My hands shook as I held it. I remembered how he used to take me hunting, how I hated the noise and the blood, but something about holding it now made me feel grounded, connected. I went into the woods the next morning, mostly to test the gun. Missed every shot, scared off a dozen rabbits, but the silence out there was addictive. Each day I went a little further, a little deeper. Then the disappearances started. Mrs. Halbrook's goats vanished. The Jacksons' chickens were torn to pieces. Mark lost 2 dogs, just gone. People said coyotes, maybe a bear. But even the old-timers were nervous. Then I saw it. One evening, walking back through the fields, I saw something standing among the corn. Tall, thin, pale. It didn't move, didn't sway in the breeze, just stood. At first I thought it was a scarecrow, but its arms were too long. Its head tilted just slightly, like it was curious. I turned and walked faster. I didn't look back. That night I loaded the shotgun. Josh invited me over for dinner a few days later. The cold had crept in early this year, and the warmth of his house was like a balm. The smell of roasted chicken, fresh bread, and burning pine filled the rooms. But something was off. His wife, Erin, smiled but said little. Their 2 boys sat unusually still at the table. "How's the house?" Josh asked between bites. "Coming along, getting used to the quiet again." He gave a dry laugh. "Quiet ain't always good out here." After dinner, when the kids were upstairs and Aaron was doing dishes, Josh poured us each a shot of whiskey. "You've seen it, haven't you?" I hesitated. "Seen what?" "You know damn well what. That thing, the whatever the hell it is." I nodded slowly. "In the cornfield, a few nights back." He exhaled. "It's been coming closer. First it was just animals. Then 2 weeks ago, the Peterson girl vanished. Went out to get firewood. Never came back. Her boots were still by the back steps." He reached under the couch and pulled out a rifle. Not just any rifle. This thing was military grade. "I ain't letting it get near my family. I'm gonna find it, and I'm gonna end it." We planned for that Friday night. A stakeout, Josh, me, and 2 of his buddies, Cole and Travis. They were woodsmen, the kind of guys who didn't blink at blood. We sat in a tree blind Josh had built years ago for deer season. The woods were silent in a way that wasn't natural. No crickets, no owls. Just the rustling of cold wind in brittle branches. Around 2 a.m., we heard something moving. Heavy, purposeful, and then we saw it. It walked on all fours, but not like any animal I'd ever seen. Its limbs were too long, its joints bending wrong. The skin looked stretched, like it barely held the thing together. No fur, just pale, slick flesh. Its face was wrong. Human-shaped, but elongated, with 2 wide eyes that reflected the moon like glass. Josh didn't wait. He fired. The shot echoed. The thing screamed, a horrible, high-pitched wail, and tore off into the woods. We followed, crashing through underbrush, lungs burning. Blood. A trail of it. Black and thick. We followed it to a gully where bones littered the ground. Not just animal bones, human. Cole vomited. Travis turned to run, but stopped dead. The thing stood behind us. I turned and fired both barrels. It dropped. We approached slowly. Its chest rose and fell. It wasn't dead. "Kill it," Josh said. But I froze. Something in its eyes. Something like recognition. Then it moved, and everything went to hell. It sprang up with impossible speed. In a single lurching movement, it grabbed Travis by the neck and flung him against a tree. I heard the crack before his body hit the ground. Josh screamed and unloaded his rifle. Cole joined in. I stood frozen, finger on the trigger, but the thing vanished into the dark before I could let some fire. Travis was dead. We dragged his body back to Josh's house in silence, then called the sheriff. A grizzled man named Harrow came that afternoon with a deputy in tow. He saw the body. He saw the blood. But when we took him to the gully, it was gone. The bones, the stench, the blood, all gone. "You boys been drinking?" Harrow asked, his tone condescending. We didn't argue. We knew what we saw. That night, the town went quiet in a new way. Like the trees were listening, like the thing was waiting. The next 2 nights were worse. Children started disappearing. 2 in one night. Dogs barked all evening, then fell silent. Windows were broken, sheds torn open, and then Aaron was taken. Josh found the back door hanging off its hinges, blood smeared across the walls. His kids hidden in the closet, crying. We had no choice. We gathered a group of men, 11 in total. 5 had hunting rifles, the rest had axes, machetes, whatever they could find. We went into the woods at dawn. The deeper we went, the colder it got. Trees stood bare, their bark blackened as if burned. No birds, no squirrels, just decay. We found the hollow at noon, a pit in the earth choked with bones. Deer, cattle, people. One skull still had blonde hair attached. Josh broke. "She's in there," he muttered. "I know she's in there." The creature attacked before we could prepare. It dropped from the trees like a spider, took one man by the face, another by the throat. We fired wildly. Someone screamed. Then I saw it. Bleeding, staggering. I raised the shotgun, aimed between its eyes, and fired. The creature fell, twitching, writhing. We surrounded it. Josh raised his machete and, with a cry of rage, brought it down. The head split like rotten fruit. The body stopped moving. We burned it in the hollow, watched it blacken and curl. And then we filled the pit with dirt and silence. They sent people from the state 2 days later. Took statements, took photos, took control. Told us not to talk. But we remember. We remember every night we lock our doors. Every time we hear a noise in the trees. We remember the thing from the hollow. And we pray it was the only one.